Okay, so the title of this video, it should be called Devotion to Emotion. Now look, it is your job as the actor to be able to get the emotional range activated. We understand that, but there's also your job not to expect that the fact that you've got your active emotion, it's not your job to put it into the interaction. You just have to bring it to your work and receive the other actor. Now, this changes everything within the mindset of the actor. The actor doesn't have the onus of responsibility to bring, yes, you get the emotion, but you don't have to actually have the responsibility of enforcing the emotion in the acting interaction. My name is Simon Blake. I have 6+ acting books, emotionalpreparation.com, and I've studied over 8,000 acting classes. Yes, classes. And look, I've learned a lot about things for acting. I've studied with over 30 acting teachers. It's incredible. So what it is that you've got to be able to get yourself in a place where you're understanding this principle. This principle alone will change your acting. And it will not just change your acting now for the next class or the next acting scene or your next movie. This is going to be able to change your acting forever, for good. You want to be able to get the ability to understand how to be able to get the emotion and to understand this principle, which is you are not responsible in enforcing your emotion on the other actor. This is where you've got the ability where many times in theater, you're going to have more leeway for yourself to be learning this lesson, which is difficult enough to learn, but it's achievable. The achievable lesson is this. In theater, you're typically learning in black box theaters or any kind of theater environment, and you're going to work to be able to get your emotion activated. And then once you've activated your emotional range, then you're going to sometimes, quite often, there's going to be a pour out of your emotion on the other actor. We get that that's part of the process for learning. But then when you get really professional, when you're working with professional film sets, and when you take yourself from the medium of theater over to film, then we're going to have another situation that you're going to have to adjust. And this is where everyone rolls their eyes over and over and over, and they say, darn, we thought that this actor was going to be able to work well on camera, and then we realize that they're not able to drop their theater antics, or they're not able to do this thing with to be able to work on in this thing that we thought that we were going to do. This is why it's very difficult. I've had many different people, all kinds of people. I've said over hundreds of different famous people, many different situations. And the thing is that the reality of this is so starking different. This is the reason why, and people ask me all the time, they'd say, well, you're the guy that does studies this and this and this. I say, yes. And a lot of times I would deny that. It depend if I like the person or not. I would say, yeah, but because I was so embarrassed for sometimes what I would see, where people would be taking over the ability of getting an emotional state, or thinking that they're in an emotion when they were just in a feeling, or just having a thought or idea about an emotion. And they didn't actually get the emotion activated. And then because they didn't get the emotion activated, they even went even more dramatic. And then all of a sudden, somebody picked them up from some picture, and all of a sudden, they're making this huge. Now, I do use my hand gestures and stuff in this video, but if I was doing an acting role, I'd be very deliberate more. When I say deliberate, I mean natural about how I'm able to be on the presence of the camera, because I would know the lesson of being able to what we're learning and speaking about now, which is the ability to know how to activate the emotion. We're learning the techniques to be able to activate the emotion, but then also knowing that it's not my own personal responsibility to make the other actor feel the emotion. Did you just hear how brilliant this is? Because this is incredibly important. Because if you're going to take over your, now I'm talking about thousands and thousands, a good percentage of actors have this problem where they literally go and they work for years, or even, typically they'd be working 6 months to 18 months inside theaters, working to be able to develop some craft, having the ability, often my biggest complaint. Now, I mean this with a complete endearing sense of reality here, that literally I am so grateful for everybody that I've ever studied. And now, I get that. But the reality is it's a big difference when you prepare on your feeling And when you prepare on your emotion, it's going to be a very different reality in your acting work. Your acting circumstance, your acting scenes are going to come out totally, absolutely different. Look, I've got an emotions list. I've got book on emotions. I have the emotional preparation book series, 3 books that go very deeply into every single emotion, over 700 emotions that are fantastic for actors. Now, the reason why I spend time doing this is because I understand that it's important to be able to isolate the emotional range or the emotional frequency for the actor. The actor must be able to isolate that and self-stimulate that emotion themselves. But you've got to be able to do this work and then understand that the acting interaction, your imaginary circumstance, your given circumstance, your acting scenes are going to be in a way that you're literally going to have to throw yourself over into an unknown experience. And 2, you're throwing yourself over to a little bit of like, okay, well, you just did all this hard work for getting your emotion activated, and now you've got to throw it over into a scene like you don't care. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to mean that you're just simply, literally, you're not trying to be able to self-stimulate your emotion while you're doing your acting interaction. You have enough to deal with. Your attention has gone off of your self-activation. I like to call it emotional preparation. I like to remind everybody that it's the activation of emotion, which is the last step to emotional preparation. And check out the layering emotional preparation techniques, because that video I completely explain very, very key things where you're going to literally not be afraid to go down my emotions triangle, which is another video. Your emotions triangle of going past your thoughts, ideas, going past your emotions, going into your deep emotions, and then going into your deep feelings, and then you jump into your emotions. You get into your emotions, you do all this tough work, and then you've got to be able to not care if that follows through with you or not, because you know that you've actually done the work, and it's going to be this concept of what is self-evidence in acting. You let the work speak for itself. You let the fact that you've gone into anguish, and you know that it's personal, or you know that you've been able to personalize the anguish, where you've really got it deeper into an emotion, and that would be the emotional core of the scene. Great. Then you walk into the scene and you literally have to give it over and not enforce it on the other actor. The more freedom that you can give the other actor, the more you're going to be able to have this like whole thing develop. You're going to grow. This is going to grow. Those things are going to grow. There's going to be moments that you're never going to be able ever achieve. And it's going to be able to, with controlling it. I mean, you're never going to be able to achieve certain moments controlling these aspects. You're going to be able to explore and create a synergy that's going to create a unique real-time experience. And that's something that can't be faked. But if you hold on to your emotion, once you activate it, you're going to have a completely different outcome. You're not going to be able to have the synergistic elements of a real-time experience in your acting. So this is key. So we're dealing with being able to, let's take another example. Let's say I'm just looking down, hateful, or helpless, or heroic, or frantic, or I don't know. There's so many different options. Abandonment's one. I mean, you're able to get the emotion, but you're not playing the idea and you're not playing the emotion, even though you know that the emotion's in you. So then what you're doing is you're relying on look, when you're playing tennis, there's one tennis ball, there's 2 players. It's the same thing. You're going to literally let go of everything over into a moment where you're going to have to let go of what you've gotten already activated and give it over to your scene partner. And then your scene partner is going to have to return it, so then you can start building up the arc of the acting scene. And the arc of the acting scene's going to come with this ebb and this flow, and it's going to come with expansions, and sometimes there's going to be contractions, and it's going to overall grow and expand the entire time that you're involved in it. And that is the ability for you to be able to understand this principle. So let's do a short recap. The ability for you to be able to achieve the best ways possible that are going to be both good for theater and for film is the ability to be able to, 1, activate your emotion, and then 2, make sure that you're not enforcing your emotion on the other actor. We're not getting the emotion just so that we can go in and steal a limelight. Now, let's talk about this for a second. Let's say you're doing a monologue. That's a great question, and I commonly asked about this whole thing. The monologues will be a situation where you get your emotion activated, but then I would suggest whenever I work with this stuff, I would always put outside stimulus, out something that's outside of myself, like an imaginary circumstance, to be the spark that starts the monologue. It could be my looking at a certain object or prop on stage. It could be that there's an interaction that happens with some of the audience. It could be something like that. Anything that's going to be able to spark with more authenticity is going to be something that you're going to be able to work off of. Now, there are times where you're going to be instructed. They want you to be a certain emotional state within a certain scene. It doesn't matter if they tell you that or not. You still have to figure out a way to be able to make it authentically happen. So then if the director goes, well, we just want you, you're so talented, you're able to get these emotions, then you go, we want you upset at this area. Well, then you're going to have to stop and explain the principle to the director. And believe me, this is not a bad conversation to have with any director, because a lot of times people are expecting actors to do really, really, really difficult things. And if you need to be able to have something to reference off of when the scene starts, that's a very, very viable and very that's something that you should be able to very easily negotiate, regardless of who you're working with. But watch this stuff because this is incredible, and join me on some other videos. Thanks.